story. Joining us now, travel journalist Eoghan Corry. Eoghan, we know that a significant number of security staff have left Dublin Airport over the past 18 months. Is that the sole problem, or are there other issues there as well?
Yes, there's a confluence of issues here. The staffing reduction was part of it. The failure of the audit, the security audits, 2 failures in recent months, which means increased vigilance and baggage going through. And there are also knock-on issues because the Dublin Airport security employees are not the only ones where there's staffing and a rostering and absentee problem, absentee sometimes related to COVID. It's impacting every aspect of life in the airport, including the airlines. Big check-in desk shortage of personnel contributed to the problem, and also to the servicing of airlines. We have a new service, for instance, to Cairo due to start next week, and it was quite unclear until recently whether there would be enough personnel to do check-in and gate clearance and things like that for that. So we had a situation yesterday where one of the smaller tour operators, or one of the larger tour operators in Ireland, but one of the smaller customers at the airport, people at a gate were left waiting for about 3 hours with no information. So every part of the airport is under pressure. Car parking's under pressure because they have fewer car park spaces. And what we saw yesterday was the coming together of all of those for a day that is made. Normally, when you look across European news for the airport queues, Dublin is one of several airports that's involved, but we're pretty much in the headlines right across Europe this morning.
As you say, Dublin isn't alone in having difficulties at the moment. The managing director of Manchester Airport resigned a few weeks ago, but it does seem particularly bad. I mean, I passed through Stansted last week, which in the past people would have viewed as pretty grim. We went through security in less than a quarter of an hour.
That could have happened in any of the airports in Europe, and the following day everything could be fine. Schiphol on Thursday commissioned a major survey, and all the points that were being made in that survey would apply to Dublin. What international airports are telling me is that they've noticed a change in behaviour, 2 changes in behaviour. Customers less adept at packing, liquids, all of those sort of things, laptops not out of bags in the scale that they were when we were more used to travelling. But the other interesting thing is that the peaks have got higher and the troughs a little bit lower as airlines concentrated into the waves of the big hub airports like Frankfurt, Charles de Gaulle, Amsterdam, Heathrow. That impacts on every airport. It means that you're going through bigger rushes, bigger bursts of passengers going through security right across the system, including airports like Dublin.
Is it possible to solve this in the short term? I mean, if there weren't enough staff at Dublin Airport yesterday, presumably there won't be enough staff next weekend either.
It's an interesting one because Saturday was the anticipated problem day. There were a lot of sports fans to be shifted. They seem to have got through Saturday, even though it was pretty grim. Listeners will be able to agree on that. But Sunday, everything started coming apart from a very early hour in the day. Now, we are going to have a busier weekend next week, and we're building up to June the 24th, which is, on schedules, the busiest day at the airport. So the pendulum is only swinging one direction here. There's going to be all sorts of rostering challenges. And as I say, that doesn't just apply to security. It applies to other parts of the airport which are coming apart. And the check-in bag issue it's a huge one because we've had aircraft departing for hub airports where almost all the connections have been missed. And it means that this finely honed aviation system that's been built up over 20 years is really straining.
Dublin Airport says it's going to reimburse people who missed a flight. Kevin Cullinan was saying to us earlier that they were aware of at least 1,000 people who missed a flight yesterday. But how will that work?
Very hard to see because we have a very highly evolved system of compensation, and it almost coded exactly how much money and exactly how many cups of coffee people are entitled to for about 18 years for airlines, but nothing similar for airports. And they tendency has been in recent years that when passengers have missed flights or been delayed, even if it's not outside the airline's control, it's the airline that's been asked to compensate. That's a big issue with the series of French air traffic control strikes that have dogged aviation over the last couple of summers. Dublin Airport have said that they will pay compensation, but I think we're back down when it comes down to the small print. It'll be down to documentation and certification. It'll be down to screenshots of times people arrived, car park, when they actually parked the car, because there isn't a ticketing system to say when you join the queue. If you're within the 2.5 hours advice of Dublin Airport for short haul and 3.5 for long haul, you won't have a case for compensation. But I would imagine there'll be a lot of fighting out the small legals of exactly who was where at what time before compensation is paid out in the scale that the passengers are demanding.
Just one final thought, Eoghan. I can hear people in the south and the Midwest in particular saying there are other quieter airports, you know.
It's a big issue. Somebody was talking to me yesterday about checking in, driving to Farranfore, parking there, taking the flight to Dublin and flying on rather than go through the queue in Dublin Airport. It is a big opportunity for regional airports. The problem comes back to the range of choice. You're dealing with 30 to 40 destinations from our big regional airports and over 200 from Dublin, and also the frequencies. If you're dealing with connections, the frequency of flights to the big hub airports. It's something that the regional airports will be looking at as an opportunity, certainly if it continues. And if this issue of security, and we've had the audit issues with Dublin Airport has certainly contributed to the problem. So it's certainly regional airports will be looking at this as an opportunity, but they need to get a bigger volume, a bigger scale before they can actually start diverting passengers in numbers from Dublin Airport.
Eoghan Corry, thanks for being with us this morning.